I want to revisit all of the predictions that I made going into this season. It was way back on March 24th. We did 10 bold predictions for things that we thought, myself, would unfold through the year. We also did like the Cy Young and Gold Gloves, I believe, Rookie of the Year, Reliever of the Year. And we're still going to touch on those in a further show, but obviously the voting on those things has not come out. So we are going to instead hit the predictions that we can identify whether or not they happened correctly or not correctly. And I'm gonna give myself a little leeway. Let's give ourselves a little bit of score at the end. But just as pretty much every journalist that covers baseball constantly says every time they're asked to do predictions, and I'm talking to you, Passon and Rosenthal, they don't like to make them because they're impossible to make. And let's just say my score here is going to double down and prove that point. Okay, so let's get right into whether or not I got my big bold predictions for the 2025 season correct or more likely not. 10 bold predictions. Number one, no AL team wins more than 92 games. Now, we went in thinking that, hey, you know, this is definitely an NL heavy season, or we think the power is there with the Phillies and the Dodgers and San Diego and Arizona and the Giants. Like, we had all of these teams, and for the most part that all kind of coalesced a little bit. I felt like Phillies and the Cubs were just as good as we thought it'd be. The Brewers ended up having the best record in the league, and we didn't see them doing it, but it was the better league and did end up winning the World Series. But we thought the AL was going to be a lot weaker, and for the most part it was, though technically I was wrong. Turns out there were 92 plus win teams. They both happened to be in the AL East, and they were the Blue Jays and the Yankees, but everyone else won less than 92 games, which I feel like that was a pretty bold prediction, and technically it's wrong. It was pretty close. And I feel like I have a little bit of, I should get a little love for that, even though it is a technical swing and a miss. Bold prediction number two, overperformer of the year. A guy I thought that was going to create a lot more value for his team, more value than his contract called for. And that man was Tommy Pham. Checked in on all of these halfway through the season, by the way, I believe on July 14th. So you can check out that show too to see where we amended some of this stuff. Though since then he did get a lot better. He was really struggling when we checked in last time, and he did end the season a little bit stronger, but I would say he did not overperform. He ended up hitting 245 with a 700 OPS, a 95 OPS plus, with 10 home runs and 52 RBIs, and exactly 1 B-WAR for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and didn't get traded. Everyone was surprised by pretty much every part of that, so I'm gonna have to give myself a good old-fashioned wrong again. That's 0 for 2, and that does not feel good, but guess what? You gotta stand up and you gotta be honest with yourself when you don't know anything about anything. All right, number three, underperformer of the year. I thought that though Willy Adames was one of the best middle infielders on the market last year, I didn't think he was going to immediately go and be an impact bat for the Giants. And when we checked in July, that was definitely the case. At that point, he was hitting 221 with a 682 OPS and only a 0.9 B-WAR, which is B-WAR usually is what has actually happened on the field. F-WAR is predictive, so that's why we use B-WAR for this. But he actually ended up a lot stronger, so I would say I was mostly wrong. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Even though I don't think that the aggregate season really kind of lined up with what he was paid, he definitely made a big push at the end there to get there. So he ended the season hitting 225 with a 740 OPS and a 111 OPS plus, pretty solid, and 3.7 B-WAR. So he had a 3.5 WAR. Now, I think he's paid like a 5 WAR player, but like going from 0.9 to 3.7 in a couple months is really impressive, and he deserves it. So I would say, wrong again, Trevor. Nice, 0 for 3. You look stupid. Moving on, number 4. My guess for stolen base leader was Elly De La Cruz in a big, bold prediction on that one. Pick the guy that won it last year. Fortunately, he did not win it. That would be Jose Caballero, who played for the Yankees there at the end of the year. And Elly De La Cruz actually ended up taking 7th. He had 37, while Caballero had 49, so it wasn't necessarily close. So that is a good old-fashioned 0 for 4 wrong. Great, awesome, sick, sweet, this is going so well. Though, he was in the top 10. Yeah, he's a great base stealer, but like base stealing, especially in the major leagues, like the top 10 of the top 10, like about 8 of those guys are going to be there every single year they are healthy. So not super bold. But I did think that he would run more. I thought he would have most opportunities as well. So I also thought he would lead the league in caught stealing. We would be wrong about that. It was actually Chandler Simpson who led the league in caught stealing with 12. Elly was tied in 9th with 8. So he also did not lead the league in caught stealing. But if you do the math there, he was 39 for 47 on stolen base attempts. That's pretty dang good. I think that's a step forward for Elliot De La Cruz in terms of his aggressiveness and maybe his risk taking when it gets down to kind of accumulating a lot of these stats. I mean, if I'm the Reds, I'm pumped. But I would say he needs to get his 40 bags a year. Like, he needs to go for 40 every year no matter what. I don't want to see him like suddenly turn into a 15 bag guy because he's out here trying to hit homers. Let that guy run. Keep him running. Don't slow him down. Keep him running, even if he doesn't win the championship or have the most stolen bases on the year. All right, here we go. Next up, number 6. This one's very interesting. The longest win streak going to the Cleveland Guardians. Now, we scoffed back in July when we revisited this. This was before Brewers went on their 14 win streak, which ended up being the actual winner. So that's not quite right. And also, the Guardians had lost 10 straight games at that point. So they were not playing well. They were bad. It was like, oh my, this team is underperforming. Like, the Twins have a better record. I don't know if they had a better record at the time, but they were closer and they had won 13 straight at some point. But then September came, and as we all know, they came back and they won the Central Division. And you know how they did that? They won 10 straight games on that streak. So I'm giving myself a W, because even though they didn't have the highest win streak, they had an exactly 10-game win streak. So I think that is worth giving me a little bit of credit. I did guess their win streak perfectly. So that's 1 for 6. 1 for 6. If I were a hitter, still not great. Okay, moving on. Number 7. Number 7, boldest prediction of the year. The non-closer of the year, the guy I thought would be the best non-closer, Jeremiah Estrada. Now, we also revisited this back in July, and I think I amended it to say, though Jeremiah has been strong, and I believe he had a sub-3 again and struck out a lot of guys, but he had some chonky innings in there from time to time. We said at that point that Adrian Morejon would be probably the choice for this because of how valuable he's been as a reliever, and I think that's true. I think Adrian Morejon, for me, is still the best non-closer in the league because he went 13-6 as a reliever, which just shows you, if you are putting this guy into a tie game and you are winning 13 of those, you got to tip your cap. He is a guy that goes in the game and then you guys end up winning. The value to that is a big deal, but technically I am incorrect. So that is now 1 for 7. Okay, moving on. Now, we set a rule last time that things would be on pace and we would give ourselves a thumbs up if they were in the top 5 of whatever it was. So like if they were around top 5. So I'm going to take that rule to the next level. If we predict someone to win and they're in like the top 3 and it's really close, we can give ourselves a tip of the cap because things like this are really hard, like RBI leader, for example, the next one. So if your guy didn't quite win, but he's really close to winning, then I'm going to give myself a W. I know I'm setting this up. I predicted Pete Alonso to be the RBI leader for the entire major leagues in this past year, and he ended up taking second with 126 behind another man in his division, Kyle Schwarber, who had quite the year and is going to end up probably being second for the MVP. But Pete Alonso with 126 RBIs and taking second, getting that close on a year that a guy led the league with 132. Pretty impressive. And so I am going to glom on to that prediction and that happening and give myself a point as well because I deserve it. Okay, that's 2 for 8. Moving on to World Series MVP. This is wrong. Forgot to tell you about this. I predicted that the Phillies would win the World Series. We'll talk about that in a moment. And I had Brandon Marsh winning it. That didn't happen. That's an L. So that's 2 for 9. And then 10 pitchers will throw 200 plus innings across the entire major leagues in a year in a atmosphere of baseball where nobody throws close to that many innings anymore. That was a bold prediction. That's why it goes on the list. And it turns out big miss, even though back in July, there were 8 guys on pace at that point. That isn't usually a great, I wouldn't say not a great indicator. I would say that usually isn't telling the whole story because when teams are out of it, some of the guys on this list were. Once you get out of it, maybe you don't make that last start of the year or like you skip a start or whatever, just to make you not have to throw some innings and then you end up just missing it, which I think happened. It turns out only 3 got there. Logan Webb, Garrett Crochet, and Christopher Sanchez all got over 200 innings, but there were 6 other guys that threw more than 192, including Framber Valdez, Tarek Skubal, and others. I think the top 10 were 186 all the way up. So pretty good, but Logan Webb led the league in innings, and he is a workhorse. He also had more strikeouts than innings. He needs a little bit more love, I think, that we're giving him. He was very good, but unfortunately, I did not hit this one. So that's not a very good run. That's 2 for 10. I'm going to say 2.5 for 10 so far, because I'll give myself half a point on the Adames. He did come raging back, but he didn't quite get to the full value, I think, or the expectation. So I would say he still underperformed, even though he maybe didn't underperform as much. So I'm gonna give myself a little credit. So 2.5 out of 10. I don't know why I'm giving myself half a point. It does not make it look any better. All right, let's talk really quickly about the playoffs. I have my playoff bracket prediction here. These are all the teams that I thought would make it. The Rangers, no. Red Sox, yes. Guardians, yes. Orioles, no. Tigers, yes. Astros, no. So I'm 3 for 6 over here. And on this side, 3 for 6. So I got half of the playoff teams right when there's 12. 6 for 12 is not good. Though the Mets did lose it on the last day, and the D-backs right behind them. The Rays were out of it the whole time. So L's across the board a little bit here. And I would say you got to get the majority to do a good job. Even though I predicted the playoffs, how they played out a little bit better than that, that is not good. Though the Tigers and the Guardians coming in right at the end make me look smart, and the Red Sox. How do I not have the Yankees in here? What am I? Oh, well, I mean, the Orioles are the Braves of the AL, so I think this was absolutely possible. I think that getting the Tigers in over the Yankees was kind of the bold move. I didn't get the Blue Jays, but hey, in my defense, nobody got the Blue Jays, so don't yell at me. And so that's a miss. And the World Series champion I had, the Philadelphia Phillies, also a miss. So let's just give myself a nice crisp 2.5 out of 12 on my bold predictions. That hurts. That hurts real bad. I did not do a good job.